Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another Indie Game Friday. This week, I was fortunate enough to catch a game I've been waiting for right as it came out. Dungeon Rats is a somewhat short, hardcore, turn-based tactical party-based RPG using a combat engine based on the one in Age of Decadence, another, more robust RPG from the same developer. Developed and published by Iron Tower Studios, it was released on November 4th, 2016 on both Steam and GOG.com. Its list price is $8.99 US. Set in the same post-apocalyptic world as Age of Decadence, Dungeon Rats takes place in a prison mine. Inmates are sent down into the mine and expected to provide ore to trade for food and supplies. It's a pretty bleak existence, and one which provides for immediate conflict. The main character is sent down, and initial missions involve working to earn a place in the mine's crude civilization, and perhaps, someday, to survive long enough to find a way out. As usual with dungeon crawlers, it's just enough to get the characters invested. But as this is set in the same world as a more fully developed RPG, there's still quite a bit of backstory and lore from the main game that can be drawn upon. Still, I'm not going to lie, the tactical combat is the main draw of the game. You craft a character in a simplified version of the Age of Decadence methods. You select a name, gender, looks, assign points to various ability scores and skills. You don't need to worry about a faction or a background and the like, since such things have been removed. Skills are relatively important, from the various weapon and defensive skills to crafting and alchemy. The crafting and alchemy types are quite important, mostly because you will uncover materials as you proceed through the game, either via treasure chests, particular areas of the dungeon, or from bodies of the slain. These materials are a decent source of gear upgrades and medicines, but require certain levels of skill to be made into anything useful. Play is pretty simple. You are given missions or quests that gradually proceed through the mines. Exploration occurs all on the main map, and at certain areas encounters will happen, transitioning into a combat overlay of the map area that the encounter happened in. There's the same sort of dialogue and textual description system that Age of Decadence has, allowing for certain skill challenges to occur at the start of a combat. For instance, when encountering a particular group of enemies, sometimes there's an option to convince some of them not to fight. The inventory interface is straightforward, with each character having their own equipped inventory, and then a central party inventory pool limited by the combined carry capacity of your current party. There's a crafting interface which allows for the crafting, repair, and upgrade of equipment, as well as an alchemy interface which allows for the creation of expendable potions, salves, poisons, etc. Finally, leveling up takes place on the character screen, where points may be distributed among skills between combats. Combat itself is turn-based, beginning with an initial setup round where you can position your characters on the grid. After that, during the first round, your main character always goes first, after which combat order is governed by reaction time. During each turn, characters get a number of action points determined by their ability scores, but limited by the armor that they wear. Heavier armor may limit your action point budget far more than light armor. Action points are used to move, to attack, and to accomplish various other actions. Although Dungeon Rats is set in a fantasy world, you won't be throwing around magic and spells. Rather, you'll rely on your various weapons and alchemical items alone, including poisons, bombs, and the like. Each weapon and item use costs a number of action points based on the way that it's used. Most weapons have multiple attack methods, including special attacks that may be unique to a particular weapon type. These different attack methods are important, not only for the different damage that they do and the action points that they cost, but also the many special attacks that can inflict penalties on opponents. These penalties can be critical in surviving certain fights. For instance, a shot to the head can do a fair amount of damage, but also penalize the target's attack going forward, while an arterial strike can cause bleeding over time. The mix of different attacks and effects you can dish out is a good balance for the lack of magic, and important because of the sheer difficulty of the encounters. And these encounters are hard. Some of them are crushingly so. Not to the point of being totally unfair, mind you, but the challenge is very real, even on the lower difficulty levels. And that's good, because there is, according to the game page, only about 50 encounters all in all. That can make for a relatively short game, I suppose that explains the relatively low price tag at just under $9. There is some replay value in that there are 3 difficulty levels, plus a solo mode, plus an Iron Man mode. So the truly hardcore can go for the maximum difficulty solo Iron Man Triple Crown sort of run. Further, there's multiple endings, I believe 4 all in all, so your actions during the actual game will matter in the end. The game uses the Torque engine, much like the Age of Decadence did, which, yes, that means Torque is still a thing. This means that graphics can seem a little bit dated from time to time, but the interface is decent, and the animations are relatively smooth. The visuals could be a little bit better, but they get the job done. The music tracks range from pretty epic and stirring to completely forgettable, but there was nothing really obnoxious that stood out, so I guess that's a good thing. Looking at it as a whole, Dungeon Rats is all about the gameplay. The storyline's relatively good for the genre, but honestly it's just about one question. Do you want a relatively brief, really hardcore tactical dungeon crawling experience in a low fantasy world? If so, I can't recommend it enough. At the $8.99 price tag, there's enough content there to make it worthwhile without it being a massive time investment. If you're looking for epic storytelling and more character interaction than combat, then I'd recommend something else. Perhaps Age of Decadence itself. And on that note, I'll call it here. This has been the RPG Crawler with Indie Game Friday. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you've got feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content. If you haven't already, take a look at my Patreon page if you have any sort of wish to help support my content going forward. Until next time, take care and goodbye.